be not only freed from ourselves in terms of, the old financial system and how literally the money, the dollar bills, of course, it's got the all-seeing eye and the Novus Ordo Seclorum on the back, but there's like a karma to that money. And so as a quick thing, one of the things I found is that as people moved from dollars to XRP as their main form of energy exchange, things in their life would start changing within itself. Like synchronicities would increase, their luck would seemingly get better. Things would just start to look better in their lives when they stopped using that super, karmic heavy dollar bill with the all-seeing eye and switched to XRP. So yeah, that was one of the first things that I got, was that this is a galactic technology. We're being integrated into that that system. And that doesn't mean that other planets call it XRP, right? It just means that it is essentially a very, very similar type of technology. And I kind of referred to it as a digital Akashic records before. And, the Akashic records being the spiritual knowledge hall of every record kept in existence that I think we can all tap into natively. And so in that same respect, the Akashic records are, they're public for everyone to access. It's all there. It's just like the blockchain, right? It's just like the XRP ledger, where it's public. Anyone can go look at it. Anyone can be a part of it. Anyone can contribute to it. And to me, it definitely is it's a galactic technology that's going to help free the planet in many ways.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we got Jace, and he's from consciouscrypto.info. Well, he and I are on the same documentary that Salim just did, which really should have been like over 1 million hits now, but it isn't because we're being stifled. There's nothing new. But before we do go any further, folks, hit the pause button, go to Rumble, follow me on Rumble. Don't forget, QFS 1776 is the holy grail of what's to come. Not maybe. We're definitely going to burn down the old system. We're never going back. Don't forget to get yourself some merchandise. You got to decorate yourself because people need to know what NESARA and NESARA is. And when they ask you, you send them to QFS 1776. They're going to need the education. Like I said, we're never going back. Also, down below, Unified TV. Okay, join Unified TV. They got incredible programming. Get a subscription. And I'll tell you why. Because I would rather give my money to Jason Shirka than to give it to Netflix every day of the week and twice on Tuesday. Also, gold and silver. If you need some gold and silver, we got a 33-year-old company with over $7.5 billion worth of sales under their belt in the last 33 years. Impeccable, absolutely impeccable reputation. Okay. Also, join our Telegram right down below. If you want to buy more than $10,000 worth of XRP in one shot, you contact me. We'll put you through our broker. Jace, right? Is that how you pronounce your name?
You got it.
Jace and I were in the same documentary. The documentary is absolutely, hands down, a 5-star documentary. It was extremely well done. And here we are. It's only got 33,000 hits, barely, which is ridiculous. But hopefully with a little bit of manpower and women power, okay, because women are more powerful than men. If you don't believe me, ask the women. They'll tell you, okay? We can get it out there to the masses, and we could do it rather quickly. Jace, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't know if I want to interview you or if I want to have a conversation, but here's the way I want to start off my conversation. The most powerful, government in the world is in a litigation lawsuit with what seems to be the new monetary system. Okay. My sources, like, David Straight and so on, people who are highly credible, very close to number 45. Okay. Are as far as I'm concerned, still the president. Okay. And, as far as I'm concerned, you just don't, one company is not going to be allowed to control the next monetary system for the entire planet. Somebody has to sort of partner up with that, be it the U.S. government, the most powerful government in the history of the world, the most powerful nation in the history of the world. They're not just going to let Ripple say, yeah, don't worry about it, just run the entire world. We're right behind you. No. That's why the Treasury, the people got arrested, whatever was left over from the Treasury and the IRS and the Federal Reserve merged, I believe, with Ripple. That's why Ripple is not leaving the country. Twofold. One, I think somebody made him sort of like a godfather, an offer you can't refuse. And the other is like Ripple says, hey, when this shitstorm blows over, they realize one thing is emphatically, And that emphatic thing is that the United States government and the United States of America is still going to be the superpower. Do you have any objections to that, or am I freaking nuts?
I would not say I have any objections. I think I would mostly agree with what you're saying. And I think, one of the things I tell people too is I feel like Ripple is the Trojan horse. They're the Trojan horse to usher in this technology to overtake the old system, the dynasty legacy banking system and the banking cartels. And so a lot of people will, ask me like, hey, how do you balance the fact, do you like XRP, but what about the fact that Ripple's part of the WEF? And what about, blah, 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 these connections. And I say, well, to me, it's pretty obvious they're a Trojan horse, right? We've heard the phrase infiltration over invasion, right? We've been told that a lot. So why would you go to war with the old system when you can subvert them and take them over from the inside? And so I think that's what we're seeing. And I tell my students and the people I work with too, that I don't think Ripple needs to be around long term. I believe in XRP, the technology. And while I love Brad Garlinghouse and I love David Schwartz, and I love a lot of the people at Ripple, I think that Ripple doesn't need to be around in the long term. They can usher in this technology, get it on the world stage, get it to the people, and then, they may kind of drift to the sidelines and disappear after a few years. Maybe not. Maybe they'll be around. Maybe they'll, merge with the IRS or these various international monetary systems. We don't know. But, when people bring up those things like World Economic Forum and all these, connections that on the surface look like, questionable, that's when I ask people to tune in their heart to their heart space and like tap into the vibration of like XRP and Ripple and what they're really doing. And, compare Brad Garlinghouse and David to a lot of the other tech CEOs and financial guys out there. And they're totally coming from their heart. They're like a totally different kind of financial tech type of, developer and, elite, you could say. So yeah, that's my quick take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if they were to allow one company, one entity to take over the entire global monetary system, because it's the only one that can be scaled to 3.5 trillion transactions per second, the one that's moved trillions of dollars already and has never made a mistake, the one that moved $1.8 trillion in one transaction. Nobody knows about this in the Middle East when we merged with a bank, when they made a big hoopla of something that was going on with the Kabuki Theater lawsuit, the lawsuit for the masses, which is nothing more than a bullshit show to usher in NESARA-GESARA. That's all it is, because as far as I'm concerned, we have plenty of documentation at this point to understand that this was settled October 1st, 2021. You've seen the video with me and Emily from QSI, didn't you?
I have. Yep.
And you can't argue with documentation as far as I'm concerned. So where do we go from here? I mean, how do you see this movie sort of unraveling?
That's a great question. We could take that in a lot of directions, but so what my focus kind of is on in this whole cryptocurrency QFS kind of world is how it's going to empower us, particularly the people that identify as star seeds and as more conscious, awakened beings who are really here to shift the planet and create the change. Mm-hmm. I think that this new financial system, this QFS, is literally going to be the catalyst for people like you and me and everybody watching to be the change that we've been waiting for so long. Because, for years, for decades, we've been waiting, right? It's been a waiting game of, okay, when is this president going to fix this problem? When are the ETs going to land and fix this thing, And while I do think that there are benevolent, galactics out there, we can get into that too, that are working with this and that are ushering this in, I don't think there are saviors, right? They're here to help us do the job. They're here to make sure that we have the tools to do it ourselves. So that's what I see this QFS and particularly XRP as an investment opportunity. I think it's going to put star seeds, you could say, into positions of empowerment and sovereignty, financial sovereignty, that will literally allow us to be that change, to be the next generation of millionaires and billionaires who can invest in the things that actually are serving humanity and serving the planet.
Cool. So basically what you're saying is, yes, the ETs are going to sort of coach us along, but we have free will. We have to be the ones putting the energy forward and to go in a certain direction. I totally agree with you. Why is the XRP army, the original army, I don't want to call them the XRP Army 1.0 because it's condescending, and I like a lot of those people. I think they're amazing people. I learned a lot off of them, especially Digital Asset Investor, Digital Perspectives, Crypto Eddie, Alex Cobb, and so on. Why do you think they're not coming over to the NESARA-GESARA level playing field? Why are they still stuck on, preaching the Klaus Schwab story? I just don't get it. Maybe you have a different take on it.
You're saying the people that are anti-XRP, why are they doing that?
No, I'm talking about Crypto Eddie. I'm talking about Digital Asset Investor, even though he's made 3 videos on GESARA and NESARA. Why are they not telling the story about GESARA? And look, anybody who looks at this very clearly, Jace, understands one thing vividly clear. There's 2 players on the field. One is winning. The other one is bleeding profusely, right? So if we could see it, and we're smart, and they're a lot smarter than we are, not afraid to say that, they are, they should be able to see it. Why are they not joining us in telling this story? Are they afraid that they're going to lose their base of people following them? I mean, look, I think, yes, to some extent, they might lose maybe 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000, but they're going to gain so much more 6 months, 8 months down the road because people are going to realize, hey, wait a minute, these guys make sense. The story does make sense, right?
Totally. Yeah. Okay, I get your question. So I think, yeah, you're partially right. They could be afraid to lose followers, and people like to please their audiences, right? So if they say something that they think might turn people away, they might not want to make that choice. But I think overall, and I want to say first, I love all those names that you listed. I love those influencers. I think they're brilliant. I think they're great people, and I watch their videos every day too. So with that said, I think everybody is at a different point on their awakening journey, right? Some people are awakening more to, if we talk about like mind, body, spirit as the holy trinity of the beingness, some people are more awakening to the body, some are more awakening to the mind, some are more awakening to the spirit. And I think that when it comes to this whole crypto world and the intellectual nature of it, a lot of that's mind, right? So a lot of these influencers, I think, are very awake in terms of the intellectual side of the awakening, but maybe have not woken up spiritually as much yet. And I think that spiritual key and that faith is a big part of this NESARA-GESARA timeline, as you could call it. And I think, maybe we'll start to see more of these influencers as they awaken to that, start to talk about that more. And it'll just be a matter of how far along they are on their personal path and what they resonate with. But that is a very interesting thing. I think, them being afraid to lose followers could be a big part of that. But they kind of focus more on the grounded 3D, facts and evidence kind of world. And it's harder for that vision of the mind to see what we see in the QFS and the NESARA-GESARA. And I think they don't want to necessarily do their followers a disservice because they're not fully aligned with it. So I totally understand that. But I love them at the same time. So I'm not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do too. And while I'm going to ask you a loaded question next, and while I do that, work on your audio because it goes from high to low, and see if you can fix that. But digital assets, is what they should be called on your website. I know I went through your website. I read your bio, etc. I understand you didn't even like the digital assets, and we should call them digital assets because crypto is it's a very condescending word that was created with us. For us by the cabal. They want us in the crypt. They want you dead, broke. They want you dying. And they want to put you in the crypt. That's why the word cryptocurrency has arrived. But I understand you started with $5,000 investment, and you grew that immediately to about $50,000 investing in the one XRP. What made you come to the aha moment? What made you say, this is the one? This makes sense. Tell us about that.
That's a good question. And let me know about my audio if it continues to dip in and out. I might have to just replug it in. But basically, I was totally shut off to the crypto world in 2019. 2019 is when I started to think about it, but I didn't know about XRP. I knew about Bitcoin and Ethereum, of course, because that's the one the mainstream is talking about, right? And that they're pushing and trying to get out there. But I didn't resonate with them. And I find that that's a theme with a lot of conscious people. You could say a lot of star seeds, people identify as star seeds. They don't resonate with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I didn't either. And I was one day talking to some friends that were associated with 17 and that kind of sphere of influence. And one of them, somebody I trust, brought up XRP, and they're like, hey, you should look into this thing called XRP. It's at 17 cents. And when they said 17 cents, I had the light bulb go off in my head. I'm like, okay, I get it, Spirit. I get it, God. There's something here you want me to look into. And so
Absolutely.
I immediately resonated. And so I didn't even really research it that much. I just went out and started buying it. And then it was maybe 4 or 5 months later that my spirit guides were basically like, okay, it's good that you bought it. We're glad that you bought it, but you need to learn why you bought it. You need to understand what the purpose is, and so that you can help other people with this as well. And then that sent me down on my XRP rabbit hole. That's when I really looked into it, and I was like, wow, this really is the solution to some of the biggest problems in the world right now. And finances are the center of a lot of the other issues in the world. So like one of the things David Schwartz says is that the access to financial freedom is the core freedom that all of our other freedoms, at least in the United States, bridge from. And so like when you look at the freedom to bear arms or the freedom, freedom of speech, you need freedom of finances to properly express, being able to go and buy arms, or being able to, get the gas money or the public transport to get to your speaking gig, or, to get a following online, that kind of thing. It usually takes money. And so if they can restrict the access to money, they can restrict your access to your other freedoms. And when that clicked, I went, oh my God, this is the thing. And then I started to get more confirmations and intuitions and downloads that this was actually a galactic mission, so to say, that this was essentially what I would consider like a seeded technology here on the planet, seeded probably through David Schwartz, probably even not to his knowing, maybe unconsciously, because I think a lot of times when these genius inventors create things, whether it's Tesla or people with the Manhattan Project or David Schwartz, they just get the ideas in their head. But to me, that is the seeding of the idea within itself. So when all this started to come together, it really clicked for me. And I have a background in kind of what you could call the disclosure movement. That's what I was kind of involved in before coming into XRP and QFS stuff. I was helping put on events for disclosure and like kind of ascension related gatherings. And when I saw that this was an intimate part of that, I was like, this is the answer. This is why I was guided to this. And it all made sense at that point.
Yeah. While I'm going to basically make a statement here, I want you to work on your audio. Maybe unplug it, plug it back in. It is still coming in. It's not coming in and out. It's going from low to high.
Let me try some real quick.
Sure. Go ahead. When I got into this, guys, into this 17th letter of the alphabet, and GESARA, NESARA, and 45, and the low-lying satellites, and I understood XRP, I said to my wife, I bet you anything you want, it's all connected. And sure enough, it was all connected. So while we wait for him to do the audio here, I'm going to hit the quick pause here. Okay, it looks like he's fixed his recording problem, which is good. And that was like I was saying, when you were fixing your recording, when I got into this, because I was a Bitcoin guy, not a Bitcoin Nancy, because I only own 3, but we were able to sell them at the height and move it over into the one and a lot of the other tokens that we also liked. And we turned, we took some money out of our silver and we turned it into quite a bit of money, sort of like your story, except we did it with silver. And we put it into some digital assets, and then it was worth like almost 300 grand, whatever. And like I was saying before, when you had the problem with the microphone, when I got into this, XRP, I said to my wife, I said, I bet you anything you want. This number 17, the letter 17 in the alphabet, NESARA-GESARA, 45, the quantum computers, the low-lying satellites, Elon Musk, somehow, some way, it says they're all connected some way. And sure enough, they are. And that's why people are resonating with our story. Look, at the end of the day, someone's going to be right. Someone is going to be wrong. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. Like you said earlier, you said something that was very interesting. Well, how about XRP being connected to this one and being connected to that one? And all these things that they're connecting it to is all New World Order based. I get that. But at the end of the day, like I said, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. So if the good guys win, the technology is going to be used for good. If the bad guys win, then the technology will be used for bad. It's a simple equation. I think that pretty much sums it up. Now, what year did you actually get involved with XRP?
2020 was the first time I bought it.
Oh, wow. So you're a newbie pretty much still.
Yeah, I'm relative to the rest of the community. I definitely am newer, but I've been researching and grinding at it every day. So I like to think I've kind of caught up, but yeah, I'm definitely still more of a noob than the people who got in like 2017.
That's pretty wild, because then you and I purchased it at the same time. And I'm going to come into that story. That's very interesting. XRP, when you bought it at 17 cents, maybe a week or two prior to that, it had dipped down to 12 cents. And I said to my wife, that's the bottom. Let's get in. She said, no, it's going to go to 10. I was right. She was wrong. And it went to 19 cents. And then it went down to 17 cents. And I pulled the trigger. We pulled the trigger at 17 cents. We got like 120,000 XRP at 17 cents, whatever that came out to. But the reality is, you and I probably purchased it right about that same time. That was my very last big purchase. We made some more smaller purchases along the way, but that was my last big one. So yeah, so look, we're living in the most interesting times, and it takes a lot of brain power. It takes a lot of horsepower to connect these dots. This is not an easy movie. Okay, I sort of understand why the XRP army, the original army, does not want to get into the movie theater, because this is complicated. This is not easy, right? I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Let's talk a little bit about the extraterrestrials, because I've interviewed Ishmael Perez a couple of times, and he says this was basically a gift from the galactics. This technology also exists on other planets that are at the same level right now, getting ready to graduate to fifth density and so on other planets. We're not the only ones that are going to be using the XRP as a monetary system. What do you think about that?
I definitely agree. I mean, that was one of the first downloads, you could say, that I got from my, galactic contacts, if you will, or my soul connections, that this was essentially us being integrated into the galactic trade, and that we would be not only freed from ourselves in terms of, the old financial system and how literally the money, the dollar bills, of course, it's got the all-seeing eye and the Novus Ordo Seclorum on the back, but there's like a karma to that money. And so as a quick thing, one of the things I found is that as people moved from dollars to XRP as their main form of energy exchange, things in their life would start changing within itself. Like synchronicities would increase, their luck would seemingly get better. Things would just start to look better in their lives when they stopped using that super, karmic heavy dollar bill with the all-seeing eye and switched to XRP. So yeah, that was one of the first things that I got, was that this is a galactic technology. We're being integrated into that that system. And that doesn't mean that other planets call it XRP, right? It just means that it is essentially a very, very similar type of technology. And I kind of referred to it as a digital Akashic records before. And, the Akashic records being the spiritual knowledge hall of every record kept in existence that I think we can all tap into natively. And so in that same respect, the Akashic records are, they're public for everyone to access. It's all there. It's just like the blockchain, right? It's just like the XRP ledger, where it's public. Anyone can go look at it. Anyone can be a part of it. Anyone can contribute to it. And to me, it definitely is it's a galactic technology that's going to help free the planet in many ways.
Absolutely. So do you think that the Bitcoins of the world, like many of the XRP people think that Bitcoin and Ethereum are eventually going to disappear because they're really antiquated technology? Are you on the same page? You concur on that?
Yeah, I go back and forth whether or not Bitcoin was created by David Schwartz or by some three-letter agency in the United States. But either way, it kind of points to that's going to go away, and that's going to, have to fall away. Plus, it's just such an outdated clunky technology. It's just not going to scale to the masses at all. It's not practical.
Well, the people in San Salvador don't like it. They're burning down the Bitcoin ATM machines. They want nothing to do with it. The guys who are receiving the Bitcoin don't want to wait 6 hours to get their Bitcoin, and they don't want to pay these heavy fees. And, and it's slow, and it's 2 transactions per minute. I mean, it's a disaster. I always say that, that if you go back in time and you understand the story for what it is, it's the real story, that the blockchain technology was patented by David Schwartz, I believe, AKA Satoshi Nakamoto, in 1988. You fast forward 2000, he goes to work for DARPA. You fast forward 2008, what happens? The housing bubble. When you fast forward 2009, what happens? Bitcoin is born. There are no coincidences. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you think maybe the DARPA people realize that, hey, this guy's an extraterrestrial, he's reincarnated extraterrestrial, he's the smartest programmer we got on the planet, he's the only guy that can fix the monetary system. With that, they went and said, listen, we're in a lot of trouble. We just, the housing bubble, there's more disasters coming. Can you do us a favor and create a digital asset? And with that, they created Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't work, and the only guy that can go back and fix Bitcoin is Satoshi Nakamoto, aka David Schwartz. And voila, you got Bitcoin 5.0 on steroids called XRP. Is that a possibility? I think that's highly plausible.
That's definitely what I'm leaning towards as the most probable scenario. And you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned SpaceX or Space Force and Starlink. That's one of the other things that I've really been kind of focusing on my YouTube channel, Cosmic Origins, which you guys can check out. I've been talking about how it seems to me very clearly that there's an alliance between the Space Force, Starlink / SpaceX / Elon Musk, and XRP. And we're seeing that develop more and more. One of the things that I just talked about on my channel was the other day, Space Force recruiting Twitter. They made a video where they literally highlighted that they were protecting banking in space. It was literally the whole point of this 30-second video is space is, the domain we have to protect. And one of the things we're protecting is banking. And I'm like, okay, why would they mention banking unless it's part of the quantum financial system? And of course it is, right? So I think that we're going to see a scenario where XRP frees us financially. It's combined with what Elon's doing with Starlink. We have XRP nodes likely on the Starlink satellites. We have XRP nodes in military bunkers underground. They're going to be everywhere. And this is going to be, in my opinion, resistant, if not, totally foolproof against any kind of solar flash, radiation type event that could knock out that kind of technology. So I think they're really prepared for this. And, Starlink is also actively freeing people on Earth from the oppression of the old system and of the centralized internet that we're still kind of working out of right now. Like in Iran right now, they just launched Starlink to help give people in Iran access to internet, against the government's will, to basically liberate them. And so I think we're going to see more of this. I think we'll probably see official announcements from Elon some point in the future, bringing on XRP officially, even though they've likely already done it. But there's no way Elon doesn't know about XRP, right? Because X has been his thing since the beginning when he created X.com, which is still up. If you go to X.com, it just has a single letter X on it. And a lot of people thought that was kind of just forgot about. But recently he said on Twitter that his acquisition of Twitter was going to speed up the process of bringing forward his dream of the original X.com. And that it would be like the kind of everything app is the way he put it. And so what's the best thing to run payments on the everything app? Well, it's going to be XRP and the quantum financial system.
No question.
Yeah, it's really exciting to me.
Yeah, there's 3 quantum computers. There's one in Spain, there's one in Dubai, there's one in Reno, Nevada. They're all connected to Starlink. And you're right, the nodes reside on all of it. The quantum computers, they reside in outer space because I think that's where we're going. I'm not even motivated by buying a Lamborghini when XRP goes to 50,000 or 100,000. I want my flying saucer. I want something that goes from, point A to point B in, 2.2 minutes, but that's because I want to take the scenic route. Okay. Otherwise I can get there a lot faster. I'm not motivated. I don't want to be a turkey scraping the earth on something that is so antiquated. It sort of resembles the Bitcoin, right? You're on a car that's obviously much more far advanced than the Model T Ford, but it's still a car with rubber tires with air inside it. Give me a break. Well,
Yeah.
I want my flying saucer. I want it now.
We're basically driving around these giant bombs, right? With gas tanks and everything. They're like tanks, and we just ram them into each other. Like I got hit by by someone running a red light, probably a drunk driver, a couple months back. And I was just like, what the F, man? Like we're literally driving around these giant bumper cars, smashing into each other, and people are dying every day. It's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
at least for that, we need the new technology. We need the UFOs. And then also just for our own liberation, so we can actually go places and see the planet and see the solar system and, prove definitively whatever the shape of the planet is, like we were talking about earlier. This technology is going to bring out all of those answers. And that's one of the other things I'm super focused on. So I'm glad you brought that up. My background is in aerospace engineering. I went to university for aerospace engineering for astronautics. And so I was like doing actual rocket science, working with like Northrop Grumman and, a lot of these companies, Lockheed Martin, that kind of stuff. And I absolutely hated it. Like I was drawn to it because I love space and I love, innovation. And when I was actually doing it, I'm like, man, this is BS. And I started waking up to all of the black budget, anti-gravity, anti-gravitic projects. And I had professors who had actually worked on those at Skunk Works at Lockheed Martin. And they were playing like conspiracy theory videos of like the flying triangles, Project Aurora, TR3B, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what the F, man? This is so messed up that we have all these kids getting indoctrinated in this stupid old technology. This rocket technology is 100 years old. It's barely been improved upon. Thank God Elon is finally pushing it forward so we can kind of bridge the gap between rockets and anti-gravitics. Eventually we'll go fully anti-gravitics, but that was actually the main catalyst for my awakening in the beginning, was the anti-gravitic technology and UFOs and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a key part of this whole thing.
Well, this is exactly why they don't want 45 to come back. He wants to give you life extension technology. He wants you to live to be 900 or 1900 years old in perfect health. You can still have sex when you're like 1700 years old. Okay. He wants to give you flying saucers. He wants to give you free energy technology. So he's going to screw two multi-$100 trillion industries. It's called the petro industry, and he's going to screw the medical industry. And we're going to give you a trustless system. They don't want you to have a trustless system and a way to live to be 1900 years old, and you're still having sex at 1700 years old, and you fly a flying saucer that goes from point A to point. You go from Manila to Miami in like 2.2 minutes if you want to take the scenic route. Okay, they don't want that. They want a system that you are enslaved. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and we're winning, but we got to keep up the pressure.
100%. And that's why they're trying to push the transhumanism route too, because there's this bifurcation of the spiritual unlocking of our dormant DNA and what we're really capable of, our true lifespans, our true superpowers. But, and people know that, like even people that are asleep know, hey, the life that we're living, something's not right. Like I should be able to essentially talk to you telepathically, but the way that they want people to do it now is by putting that chip in your brain, and then you'll be able to talk telepathically and all that. But they're totally bypassing the natural organic way that we come into this new evolution, this new quantum evolution.
Absolutely. Listen, brother, there is no reason for anybody to be bored right now. I said, look, I could, be pissed off at the New World Order, and I could, sit here and complain, or I could take this whole thing and turn it into a business of sort. Because my business, which was energy deregulation, most of the call centers out there used to work for me. So if anybody ever called you and said, hey, we can make your energy bill go a little lower, call center, those guys work for me. Okay. I don't do that anymore. So I had to reinvent myself. So here I am. If someone would have told me that I'm going to be a podcaster talking about the quantum financial system and the quantum healing beds, by the way, you guys should go visit Maria Scavelli in Utah. She just opened up. We're going to leave her link down below, her information down below. Miraculous stuff is happening with these scalar wave technology from Dr. Sandra Michael Rose. And it's not the technology doesn't heal you. The technology only provides the atmosphere so that your cells act accordingly, and they know exactly what to do, and your cells start to produce healthy cells, and then those healthy cells start to produce more healthy cells, and it creates more healthy stem cells as well. Okay. And you're telling me you start going the opposite way. Holy moly. You understand? People are going in. Like, there's a lady there right now. Today's her last day. She's telling me the story. I get chills telling about the story because it's a story that needs to be told. Okay. She goes in. She's sick. Her dog is sick. She sends me pictures of the dog's like up on all fours. She's, rubbing his chest. They're laughing. They're smiling. They're feeling good. The technology is here. It's here now. It's in Lehi, Utah. Get in touch with Maria. If you're in Lehi or if you know somebody in Lehi, definitely make sure you send them to Lehi or if you're in the surrounding counties or surrounding states, it doesn't matter. People have traveled 4 or 5 hours. My friend, James Anthony, who's got a small podcast on YouTube, him and his family drive 5 hours one way, five and a half hours back. His daughter's complaining all the way up. She goes, Dad, frequency is going to what? Heal us? People don't understand frequency is very real. Look at your technology around you. Your television, okay, works on a frequency. Your radio works on a frequency. When you get in the car, you don't have a real long extension cord that's connected to the radio, but you're getting a frequency that makes that radio work. Okay? We are moving into a new era. And they don't want Mr. T to come back because he's going to give it all. He's going to burn it all down. And I'm going to show up to the party with my 17 gallons of gasoline, and you guys should do the same thing. And we're going to burn it down to the ground. That's what we're going to do. You know what I mean? And I know
Totally.
you're smiling because you know that that's exactly what needs to happen. I'm not here. I didn't listen. This chair, when you compare this chair to my ego, it's a footstool. It's nothing. Okay, I'm very confident in what I talk about because once I do my research and I become convinced, I become obsessed, I become possessed with what the information is, and it's not plausible, it becomes quite pretty much factual. Okay, we want more of you people out there to stand up, wear your cojones, wear your balls, women with testosterone, men with testosterone. The more noise we make, the more we say we want NESARA-GESARA, we want it now, the faster it's going to happen.
100%. Totally agree. And, I want to touch on what you said too about healing, because I 100% agree. And that's super underrated that we are the ones that heal ourselves, right? This technology or healers, whether they're physical, human healers, it's always them providing that space for our body to do it ourselves. So the individual who's seeking the healing has to be totally aware and have that intention consciously in order to actively heal, I think. And the other thing too, you're talking about all the frequencies and the cell towers and our Wi-Fi routers. And, if you just go to an airport, for example, it doesn't feel good, right? Like airports don't feel nice. They feel yucky and like dirty. And like you can just tell they're pumping out really bad frequency energy to keep people in this dormant, complacent state. So what if all of those frequency emitters in the world were tuned just a little bit so that the frequency they were emitting was one that was in harmony with the body healing itself, right? So if we go to an airport and, oh my God, it feels like I'm at the spa, right? Like, it's like, oh, I feel so good. Like my body feels good. That's what we need. And I think that that's honestly what Starlink might be doing. Because have you ever witnessed the Starlink satellites yourself, like in the sky? Have you ever gone outside?
Not yet, but I know that I'm in line to get my service as soon as it becomes available. They say January or March, the latest here in Costa Rica. I'm in line to get it, so I can't wait.
That's awesome. I'm looking into getting one as well. I've seen them a couple times, and every time I've been just utterly shocked because, like I said, I was doing aerospace in my past, and I did a lot of like orbital mechanics. I'd look at satellites. I do that kind of stuff. It didn't give me the same feeling that looking at the Starlink satellites do. And when people look at them, you can just look at all the videos online. People freak out. They're like, what is that? That is not something normal. And it's not just because they're just a little cooler looking. I think that they are actually doing this. I think that they are emitting frequencies that are bioharmonic and that are causing people to have this almost spiritual experience, almost like when you see, like an ET UFO, a galactic UFO, and you have this consciousness interaction with it. To me, it feels like the Starlink satellites are doing something very similar. And I don't know if it's because they're using some kind of galactic technology in a classified way that isn't public, or if it's that they're emitting these positive Tesla frequencies that are allowing us to heal. But it seems like it just lights up people's inner child, and they have this conscious interaction with them, which is just really fascinating.
Well, I'll tell you what, this movie that we're all in. See, we put ourselves in the movie, so we might as well, if you're bored during the New World Order, just put yourself in the movie. You won't be bored anymore, I promise. You're one of the stars in the movie. There's like, thousands of us at this point. But this technology that we're all talking about, healing, the quantum financial system, we're going to be able to create, multi-hundred billionaires. We're going to be so much richer than the 7,200 multi-billionaires that are here now, who hide behind their 501c3s. They take the money and they take it out of their left pocket. They put it in their right pocket. They pay next to no taxes, zero. Okay. They do absolutely nothing for humanity. Not one multi-billionaire that I know of has a humanitarian project. If it's a humanitarian project, it's only so that they can escape the tax man. Okay. We're about to graduate into this world of GESARA and NESARA with 100 million multi-billionaires. And we're going to be much more richer by a factor of 10 to 1 when you compare us to these 7,200 multi-billionaires who are miserable people. Okay. They have all the yachts and the champagne and the cocaine and the jets and the houses all over the world, but they're not happy. These are not happy people, because they've gotten there by screwing all of us. And now we're presenting a trustless system. They don't like the trustless system. Well, tough shit. Because it's coming, man. Everybody could see it. Look, what happens when Donald Trump comes back and he announces GESARA and NESARA? What happens when he comes back and he announces the RV? You saw him. He was in Missouri with his wife at a company where they create RVs, and he drops a major breadcrumb. He turns around to his wife and says, "Honey, I think we're going to get an RV." Really? Come on.
Yeah, right.
Are we all that stupid?
Only for those that have eyes to see, right?
Right? He comes down the escalator, and there's a sign behind him, and I keep saying this because 0.0000006 of the world's population is involved with this stuff. There's 160 million people in digital assets, and there's 8 billion people on planet Earth. They haven't heard the story yet. If you know how to tell the story, start your own channel, go tell the story, put your own flair into it. Rock and roll, baby. What does it say on the escalator, on the big wall, on the wall? Currency exchange. This man came down the escalator to announce he was running for president of the United States, and he had already programmed to give you the power back to you, the people, NESARA-GESARA. It's one big plan. And yes, the army's in charge. And yes, you will see the arrests. And the story, the greatest story in the world, will be told. Make no mistake about it.
And we're going to be the ones telling it too. That's what's great, is that it's literally us. And even when it comes to 17 and so many of this stuff, I feel like it's literally us. And there's, this goes maybe a little more esoteric, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with timelines and timeline wars. And I think that XRP is this inevitable technology that, just like any kind of other technology, it's neutral, but it can be used for good or for evil. And I get this feeling that in a past future timeline, if you will, that XRP was maybe used for evil. And this is the reason why so many conscious, empowered beings have been drawn to buying it and investing in it now, because it's like we're recorrecting the timeline. This is just a theory of mine, but I've heard other people resonate with this as well, that this is it's a mission for us to overtake this and make sure that we have a majority control of this network in a way of conscious, enlightened beings, so that we can steer it in the direction that is for the service of the planet and the service of the people. And yeah.
Jace, let me ask you a question point blank. How long do you think this is going to take for it to all blow over? Not without putting any dates on it.
Yeah, but like blow over, like get to what point? Like to the point where
Get to
we're
the
more
point
in a
of GESARA,
regular.
NESARA, quantum financial system, Mr. T being put back in its proper place, etc.
I feel like as soon as this year potentially, and as late as 2025. It seems like there's kind of this potential energy between this end of 2022 moving into 2023 and things that could catalyze into NESARA-GESARA, particularly if the current sitting US president, you know, gets booted and we get Mr. T coming back in, and, you know, all that gets exposed. That could be a huge catalyst towards NESARA-GESARA. I think if things don't go so optimally, it's still going to happen in the next few years. And 2024, 2025 feels like the time period at the latest that these catalysts would play out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard, this 2025 date from Digital Asset Investor when he shows these different charts, etc. But have you seen some of my videos lately where I'm doing debt forgiveness videos where people that come in on my show showing that their debt was literally wiped away, and people saying it doesn't exist? I got a third one coming now. I got dozens of them, but they don't want to come on the show. I can't force them to come on the show at gunpoint, but I will tell you, Melanie, who's a big GESARA NESARA, podcaster over in Maine, who sits on her porch. She's got blonde hair with braids, okay? And she sits on the porch and she tells the story, okay? She's got $100,000 debt forgiveness. She's coming on my show in a couple of days.
$100,000. That's amazing.
$100,000. I just did a one with a lady over in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And this lady got an $87,000 debt forgiveness.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why
it's like
is this
happening slowly, little bits at a time.
Breadcrumbs. That's what this is.
I think it happened in Canada with everyone who had Chase Bank as well. Chase totally pulled out of Canada, and anyone who had Chase in Canada had their debt forgiven.
Right. There's a lot of it's happening in Russia. Okay. You can't say that this is not happening. It's happening. There's an article that just landed in our Telegram group, which everybody should join. It's free. You get the most incredible education of your life, and stay in the room. Anybody that tells you that they're me, it's not me. They're trying to steal your money. They want to talk to you one-on-one. It's not me. They're trying to steal your money. Stay in the room and be an asshole. Ask questions. Okay. Anybody could help you with any application inside the room, as long as you keep your seed words close to your chest and your passwords close to your chest. They could walk you through the application under the supervision of all the patriots. Doesn't matter whether they're administrators. Don't do one-on-ones. Anybody says I'm Mel Carmine, it's not me. Okay. So, we built this huge infrastructure and we're being stifled. I know that we could be a lot bigger, and at some point I believe we will. Do you think at some point the white hats do take over these platforms? Do you think we're going to get our freedom of speech back? That's what I want. I want to be able to grow with no limits, and I'm sure you do too.
100%. Yeah, I think it's going to restore all of those sovereignties and freedoms, and then we're going to come into a whole new era of what it means to be human on planet Earth, because it's just going to catalyze so much after that. And I think, do you follow Mr. Poole by chance? Have you heard that name before?
I do. Yeah.
So one of the things that Poole has talked about is this overnight scenario, right? That this shift is going to happen potentially while we're sleeping, and we're going to wake up and it's going to be there. And at first, a lot of the more, grounded 3D kind of XRP army channels were totally opposed to that. There's no way it's going to happen overnight. But now what we're learning from like David Schwartz about how the liquidity on the cross, on the side chain ledgers that the banks are using to experiment with, how that value is going to have to basically come over, and they will have to be worth the same value, the private chain and the public chain. That's where we could get an overnight scenario, as well as when the flip of the switch is hit, when the ODL networks turn on across the globe. That could literally happen overnight, where we could, be sitting at 50 cents and then, hypothetically be at $10,000 the next day. So the catalyst is just going to be quick. And then from there on out, it'll exponentially increase what it means on planet Earth.
When the boys and girls upstairs needed to be a certain number just for reasons that they don't want to act so conspicuous, it might take maybe a few months, but it's going to go pretty quick. It's going to go within 6 months to a year. It's going to get to the desired number, and it's going to be a stable coin. And people don't understand. And I keep saying the same story over and over again. I understand I sound like a broken record, but this is the story. I've created my own story based on the dots that I've connected. I'm not changing my story, okay? So that I can, I might use different words and I might do it in a different sequence to keep you enlightened and entertained, but the story is always going to say the same. And the story is that, you know, when you start to understand that the universal basic income that's coming into play with NESARA-GESARA is $5,000-$6,000 a month, and that money needs to travel through the XRP, and that's a lot of $5,000-$6,000 a month times most of the planet. Okay, when you start to take into account that we might get some of that money back that they've been screwing us once we came out of our mother's womb, that they sort of fingerprint your feet and they trade you on the open stock market. That's going to be a lot of money. It's going to have to travel through something. It has to travel through the XRP, the XLM, the XDC. When you start to understand that there's 1.8 billion people that are unbanked, that are getting ready to be what? Banked. And they're going to be banked through what? The XRP system. And that money has to travel through the XRP system. When you're talking about government sending money to government, so when you're talking about corporation sending money to corporation, when you're sending people that are working overseas sending money back home through remittances, when you're talking about, you know, these large, you know, General Motors companies, until they disappear and we have the flying machine, we don't need the General Motors anymore. But until then, when they're going to be buying, you know, 50,000 cars at one clip, and they need to buy and they need to move that money from point A to point B, they're going to move it with what? The one that can move like lightning's fast.
They're not going to write checks, right? They're not going to do direct deposits that take days.
XRP is going to be the one. There's no question about it. We've done the homework. If you want to buy more than $10,000 worth, you call me. See, I suspect, and we'll leave it with this, and I'm going to hit the pause button. We're going to say goodbye to the audience. I suspect that because see, I know for a fact that if there was a second entity out there selling large quantities of XRP, this dude would know who that second or third entity was. I could tell you there isn't a second or third entity. My guy, who's got now a company that's 300 plus, okay, with multiple offices in UK and Australia and all over the world, okay, is the guy that I suspect that somebody recently, like 2 weeks ago, purchased $500 million worth of XRP. Obviously, I can't go to him and say, hey, bro, did that guy that bought $500 million or that entity that bought 500, did they go through you? Obviously, there's client confidentiality agreements in place, especially on an order of that size. He's not going to tell me, but I suspect that all these big transactions, 75 million, 100 million, 250 million XRP, they go through my guy. I got some big whales though. You know, anybody who puts up $1 million, $600,000, to me, that's a whale, XRP, and they're going through us. So if you guys want to buy a large amount of XRP, I'm your guy. So guy, if you want to add anything else, how did these people find you? Let them know how to, you know, your website, your social media presence, etc. How did he find you, guy?
Awesome. So you can find me. My website is consciouscrypto.info. That's where I do intimate coaching with people. So if you're really looking for an intimate experience to have someone walk you through this, we do weekly video calls. We have an awesome conscious community. You can find all that info at consciouscrypto.info. My Instagram is also at consciouscrypto.info. And then I have Cosmic Origins, which is more of my podcast project. So you can find me on YouTube at Cosmic Origins and on Instagram at Cosmic Origins with the 0 as the O. And yeah, those are my main platforms. I also have a Cosmic Origins Telegram, t.me/Cosmic Origins channel is where you can find me.
Perfect. And do me a favor, send all that stuff to Amber, and we're going to just copy and paste it and put it underneath this video. This way you can follow this guy, because I promise you, this will not be the first or the last time you'll see him. Guys, thank you. If you listen so far, we'll catch you on the next one. Stay right there. Don't move, brother.